Good evening on this Tuesday night. Welcome to the University of Dubuque Football Show with head coach Stan Zwiefel here with the University of Dubuque football offices as we start our coverage of UD Spartan football on the weekend after the Tuesday, the Labor Day weekend after the Spartans' first ball game against Marietta College. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment. And it's a big weekend this weekend here on the UD campus is Hall of Fame weekend, and the Spartans getting ready to host a very good Wisconsin lacrosse opponent. And Coach Zwiefel with me right now. And Coach, welcome to a 2022 season that's underway.
Yes, thanks, Tim. Really good to see you. And we got Jim off camera here who does the color for the games. It's great to have you two guys back. It's really great to be able to talk football again. I wish I had a little bit more better circumstances than last Saturday, and I know we'll talk about that, but it's good to start the season off.
We'll talk about your game with Marietta, but also we'll maybe get a little introduction to the Spartan team since the season is just underway. And this is our first show here on udspartans.com. But, you know, first of all, let's talk about your trip to Marietta. Took a flight to Marietta College, the return trip from last season they came here. And, you know, other than the result, the Spartans fell 14-13. Sounds like it was a first-class trip for the team.
Wonderful experience for our players. I think we had 27 players who had never flown before. So a really nice experience for them to kind of do like they do in the big time. We flew out on Friday morning. Tim got into Parkersburg, West Virginia, and bussed over to Marietta about 5 minutes away, then had a workout on their field, and then had a dinner with Marietta on their food service. They were very gracious hosts. Their president, their athletic director, and their football coach did a real nice job of taking care of us. Had kind of a buffet style where we actually got to meet the players on Marietta's team, and they got to meet our players, and that was a really nice experience. And then Saturday, we ate again on their campus, and they had some kind of old car parade going on, but they were able to give us a police escort into the stadium, so that was real cool for the players too. And then we went and played the game, and we'll talk about that. Everything really was a great weekend except for the final score.
Well, let's get into breaking down the game a little bit against Marietta. Outstanding team, first of all, from the Ohio Athletic Conference. I know they're picked to finish, I think, fifth in that league this year. But, you know, top to bottom, that's one of the better conferences in Division III.
Yeah, we really, after we played them, Tim, looking at tape before and then after, we favorably compared them with a Cole, a BV, probably not a Central or Wartburg, that caliber of team, but a team that would be third, fourth in our conference. So we thought it was a really good matchup, and of course the first half was scoreless, and it was a very good matchup. We had a couple big plays. We had a chance to kick a field goal and missed early. We had a chance on a couple drives, kind of shot ourselves in the foot. But Tim, I think the biggest thing is, and we had talked about this as a staff, number 51, the Neuerberger kid on their team is a preseason All-American, and he really had as good a game as I've ever seen a defensive player play. He had 5 sacks, blocked in the field goal, and had 2 tackles for a loss, and he was really all over the field. We actually put a back with our offensive line and sometimes a tight end to block him, and we just were not able to get that job done enough for us to sustain a victory. So as I mentioned, the first half was really scoreless. Our defense really played a great first half. They had very little offense, if any. At the end of the game, I think we had close to 24 more plays run than they did. We out total offense, whatever that means. But I thought the big factor was we didn't turn it over, but we had 7 sacks, Tim. And so when you think about a sack being a negative loss yardage play, that really affected our ability to have a chance to score some points in that first half. So the first half was about as even as you could possibly get. Then we scored first, and then we scored again, and we missed the extra point, and it's 13-0. And I watched their sidelines. I thought they were getting ready. Holy cow, things aren't so good. They threw a long pass that one of our DBs went up, bounced off his hands. The kid caught it on a rebound, and all of a sudden it's 13-7. It's a different ball game. Then they scored a go-ahead 14-13. And Tim, I don't know if the listeners know this. It's 14-13 with about 2:32 left in the game. They're on their own 47. They've run 2 plays, and haven't used a timeout. We're going to use it on the next one to force them to punt. They drop back to pass, and the kid goes back to pass, and the ball goes out of the back of his hand like, holy cow, my friends. We pick it up at about their 44. We get an 18-yard gain. On a 3rd and 10, we convert a first down. The next play, we get to their 3-yard line. You look at the clock. There's 1:02 left. We've got a timeout to kill. We try to run the ball, then we try to throw it. And we try to throw it, and we still have 32 seconds left, and we have an 18-yard field goal is what it ends up being to win the game. And a little bit of confusion on our holder was a little bit deep. We shifted our wings twice because we saw where the overload blitz was coming. And then they shifted. We got a little bit deeper, and we had a bad snap. And Galldanger, we missed the field goal, and they were able to run out the clock. So I never doubted that we were going to win that game until we missed the field goal, obviously. So very well, hard-fought game. You'd sure like to come out on the better end of that. And, Tim, I tell you every year that I try to schedule a non-conference game that'll be a hell of a battle, and then we try to schedule a non-conference game where the opponent's going to be a rated opponent, top 10, top 15, whatever we can fit. And so the hell of the battle was Monday with Marietta, Tim, a game that we thought was a toss-up, and everything reflects that. And now the game coming in, which we'll talk about later, brings a ranked opponent who's a very good team.
Let's break it down a little bit more
Yep.
offensively. 409 total yards and some explosive plays, especially the first touchdown of the season. You have an explosive back again this year, Kaleon Buckner, and
Yep.
he did what he does best. He got space and he
If
took
you remember
off.
last year, Tim, we ran the exact same play against them for I think an 88, and it got called back on a block downfield. But we had a lot of explosive plays. Our quarterback, Ben Galtig, a sophomore, who was our 3rd string last year, was 20 for 28 for 212 yards and no picks and 1 touchdown. A real nice day. Our back Callion had over 100 yards. Our Cameron Bryce, our wideout, had over 100 yards. We had Wade Sheets, the transfer from Ohio University. He had 5 catches for 68 yards. He missed 17 days in fall camp with a hamstring. So we're just starting to get some folks back. We think we have a really dynamic receiving core. Talk about Wade Sheets, Cameron Bryce. We've got Todd Simmons, a transfer from Wagner. We've got a number of kids who were with us last year. We're really just deep in the receiving core. And then Jamari Jenkins, our tight end, is a really good tight end who played behind the first-team all-conference player last year, Carletti Faminute. So the skill for us is pretty good. Our biggest question, Tim, is our offensive line. We have 3 new starters on our offensive line, and we're still trying to figure out what they can and cannot do. And obviously, when you give up 7 sacks, you got a little bit of concern in your protection issues on that part. They have, as I mentioned, an exceptional pass rusher. But if we don't get the 7 sacks, I think we win that game handily. But we did get the 7 sacks, so we didn't. So there's so much areas to improve on. But we were very accurate in throwing the ball. Had some big plays, as you mentioned. And then you can talk about our defense. Yeah. For almost only with the exception of 2 drives, they really didn't do much against us. In the first half, we were totally dominant on our defensive end. And we have a wonderful returning defense. We have 9 starters who started for us last year. Our back end is as good as we've ever had here. Ty Guyman, a returning All-American. Colton Pedersen and Dalton Wood have started 16 and 22 games respectively at safety. We got a transfer, Brock Carter out of Missouri State, who's our other starting corner, who's an exceptional player. We have a linebacking core. Our top 6 out of 8 are back, and they're really led by Garrett Hertzfeld, who I think is one of the premier players in the league. Brogan Stewart, C.J. Dean, a transfer from Bemidji State. We've got a really, Stone Gorman, we have a really good depth in our linebacker core. And then our starting D-line is really good. We got Trey Samafu, who came back for his graduate year, is 4th year but graduate. Big inside player, Jesse Darker, who started for us last year. Ben Rashid, who started for us in Edge. But we don't have a lot of depth there, Tim. And so on Saturday, we were doing a lot of subbing, trying to get those guys not to be so gassed, but I really felt they played as good or better than I thought they would. And so I thought that would be the turning point for us. Obviously, as I said, the 7 sacks, and then we missed an extra point and 2 short field goals. And that ended up being the difference in the game.
You mentioned, I mean, you were up 13-0, had the point after block. Do you feel like that gave them a little bit of momentum there after?
Yeah, you know, we talked about that, Tim, on the sidelines. I'm going to tell you right now, as I looked across the sidelines after I got 13-0, they looked deflated. And they took a shot. As I mentioned, we had them pinned in the corner, bounced off the form of our corner and bounced up, and you got it for a touch. That was really the momentum turner, my friend. I know the extra point was like you got a little life, but we could have snuffed it out, but we didn't. And that's a learning experience for all of us. I told the team I'd take full responsibility for that loss. We should have prepared them better for our field goal and extra point team. We should have done more, should have anticipated with a freshman kicker the pressure's going to be big, 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 and that's what it was. So that surely lies squarely on the shoulders of the head coach.
No turnovers, and like you said, defensively forcing 2 Marietta fumbles, so you were a +2 in the turnover department. So I think that's a great point. You know, before we
sure
close the first game of the season out, any other thoughts on Marietta?
There really are. I told the guys after I left, you know, after a game, you're so darn emotional. You just are. And I say, guys always says, how did it go, Coach? I got to look at the tape first. I can't tell you. I wanted to scream and yell and say, holy cow, but I'm smart enough to know. It took me a long time to get here, Tim, but I'm smart enough to know what you say after game emotional usually isn't a good thing to say. So I just told the kids, hey, proud of your effort, proud how you competed. I thought we should have won, but the tape will tell us the tale of what happened. And then after I watched the tape, I told our coaching staff on Sunday morning, I think Marietta's probably going to be in the top 3. Had a chance to visit with Drew Nystum, our old offensive line coach, who's the head coach at John Carroll, and I said they're better than they were last year. And I think they're better than they were last year because they just seem to be a little bit more physical than they were a year ago. And you know, a year ago, Tim, we hung on for our lives at the end. It was very similar to this game. We jumped out ahead, and then in the second half, they kind of dominated us defensively. They didn't do as well against us defensively, but I think they're a better football team than they were last year.
So a lot of positives to build off
yes.
of, even though it was a loss, 14-13 to Marietta College. So you turn the page. Wisconsin Lacrosse is the opponent that will be coming to Chalmers Field for the home opener coming up on Friday night. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back with more on the UD Football Show with head coach Stan Zwiefel when we return in just a moment. And we're back at the UD football offices. This is the UD football show with head coach Stan Zwiefel. Tuesday evening on the University of Dubuque campus, Saturday night. Chalmers Field will be alive with the first home game of the season as the Spartans welcome in 12th ranked Wisconsin lacrosse, 12th ranked according to the D3Football.com rankings. And we'll talk about lacrosse here in just a moment and your preparations for that, Coach. Health-wise, though, first of all, before we transition,
Sure.
how's the team after game number one?
We felt we came out pretty well after the game. Ben Galtic, our starting quarterback, got removed from the game with concussion-like symptoms. We'll know more about him this week where he sits. Nick Vargas, our right tackle, sprained an ankle but went back in and completed the game. He's questionable for us. But other than those two injuries, we appear to be fairly healthy after that. We're going to get our starting kicker back. Young man who kicked for us was our backup. We had an injury on Wednesday of last week, a pulled groin. We think he's going to be back. So we're pretty close to full strength. You know, we got the normal nicks and bumps that you have after the first game because you haven't had contact to that degree earlier, but we feel like we'll be pretty close to full strength.
Wisconsin lacrosse, the opponents, and a big weekend on the University of Dubuque campus. Not only is there a football game, but it's the 2022 Hall of Fame class. And I know one of the latest members of the Hall of Fame, you were pretty proud of him.
Yeah, I'm pretty close to my heart. Miles Hookstead, who's played for us, was a college All-American at tight end, academically and athletically, and a 4-year starter on our basketball team, and a 3.9 GPA, and whatever else the heck he did, because he does everything here. He'll be going in off that 2011 team, which I still talk about fondly all the time. Well-deserved honor for Miles. He's also coordinating our offense. You know, and he really represents to me what our program was since I came here, the type of athlete and the type of student, the type of young man he is. He'll be going in on the Hall of Fame day, and we're really proud of him. Our entire staff and our school is very proud of what he's accomplished, not only as a player and student, but as a coach.
It'll be a night game at Chalmers Field, 6 o'clock kickoff against University of Wisconsin lacrosse, team you played last year up there, and lacrosse, a pretty impressive team last year, and sounds like they're pretty much where they're at, maybe even a little better team this year.
I think they're going to be the team to beat in the WIAC, and I think 12th. The AFC ratings will come out a little bit later. They're going to be in the top 5 on my ballot. They bring back a lot of players, but what they have, I think, Tim, is a really good offensive and defensive lines. They have 4 seniors in their offensive line. They return 3 of their 4 starters in their defensive line, and they are physical and they are big. And if you remember last year's game, Tim, we really battled them in the first half, but they just flat wore us out in the second half. Flat wore us out, running the ball against us, and flat wore us out, putting pressure on our quarterback as well as the run game. We'll have to find a way to answer that, Tim, for us to be in that ball game. I think getting the ball out in the perimeter, getting out of his hands fast, doing all those kind of things to help our offensive line. And then we're going to have to play a very clean game. If we give up 7 sacks again, Tim, we won't be in this football game. It'll be a lot further out of reach than losing by a point. So we've really been trying to come up with some plans to max pro, get some things where we can match up and do those things. But they're going to be an outstanding football team. Coach Janis, a young coach who coached for Mike Schmidt, one of my former assistants at lacrosse, coached at Platteville and then is up at lacrosse. He's doing a bang-up job. And then, of course, a little civil war going on between me and my son. I haven't talked to my son yet, and I refuse to do so till after we play him. Not sure his mom is excited about that, but no big deal. He's up there coaching the secondary and taking care of their special teams. Very excited about getting a chance to play him, and he probably knows our offense as good as I know our offense. So that puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage, but we'll just see how that all shakes out. But everything being done, as I told you, Tim, I always like to play a ranked team. The Whitewaters, the Crosses, the Plattevilles, the St. John's, all those guys that we've played over the years. Doesn't do a lot for my record, my friend, let me tell you, but it sure gets you a measuring stick for how good your football team is going to be. And in our conference right now, Wartburg and Central are going to be very strong. Central's getting their votes based on what they did last year, as we know. And Wartburg, in my opinion, is going to be the team to beat. And so playing this team will give us some kind of measuring stick, not only where we are on September 10th, but where we need to be in October, whatever that is, when we play those folks. So I think it's a very smart thing that we do. It's not always the most beneficial for what looks like early, but I think in the long run it always pays off.
Well, if you're going to make the playoffs, you're going to face
play
a
somebody
team like that at some point. So when you look at lacrosse, they won their opener 42-7 over Dakota State. I believe that's a Division II program,
They're an
or NAIA,
yep.
but a good NAIA program.
I'll just give you a little. Steve Vassilotti, who played for us on that 2011 championship team, was the all-time sack leader till just 2 years ago when it got beat, is Dakota State's strength coach. So we have, there's some friendship there or some kind of relationship there. And they're down a little bit from where they were last year. They were 8-3 last year. They graduated a lot of seniors. So he didn't think they were as good as they were last year, but he thought lacrosse was better than last year. So it was 0-0, I think, at the end of the first quarter, and then lacrosse scored 35 rapidly in the second quarter, then the game was over. And as I said, last year in the first half, it was a nip and tuck battle, and we missed a touchdown in the corner of the end zone, which I thought could have changed the complexion of the game, but it didn't. But in the second half, as we mentioned earlier, they just dang wore us out. So we'd like to stay on the field offensively a little bit more, and we got to score some points early in this game to be competitive with them.
Seems like they were fairly balanced last year offensively. Will they be again this year then?
Yeah, they're running two quarterbacks, Tim. One is kind of a running quarterback. One's kind of a throwing quarterback. They got a great back, Joey Stutzman. He is really a special back. I think he rushed for 1,200 last year and 860 in the WIC, a very tough conference. They have two nice wide receivers, but I think the beauty of their team is they've got 5 offensive linemen who have started together at least 2 years and some 3-year starters. So they just look so very strong, cohesive unit, pick up stunts, blitzes, all those kind of things. And they got a little bit of nastiness to them. They're a little bit physical. So I think that's really the heartbeat of their team is their offensive line.
With all that being said, what's it going to take for the Spartans if you're going to come away with a win at home in the opener?
It'll be tough. I think we have to play cleaner than we did. We can't allow sacks like that. I think our defense is really excited about this contest. I think they felt they played good enough for us to win on Saturday. And Coach Huberty, our defense coordinator, he wasn't very pleased now. I get all that stuff. The defensive guys, they're a little bit wacko, and I love that wackiness. But I think if we can play and continue to get a little bit better, we'll be doing very well on defense. We'll just have to see if our offense can generate going across the goal line early.
Coach Sweefel, any final thoughts before we turn you loose on this Tuesday night?
Yeah, should be a fun dang game. Looks like it's a 6 o'clock game. Weather's going to be good. Hall of Fame, we should have some alumni back and so forth. And God, it's nice to get home. It really is. I mean, that trip out to Marietta, although it was fun, God, it was long. You know what I'm saying? That's a long day regardless of how you do it. But excited to get back home, Tim.
Well, we'll have the broadcast on udspartans.com as we'll have the stream. Jim Clorin will join me in the booth, and we'll have the play-by-play action. 6 o'clock start time with the Spartans taking on the University of Wisconsin lacrosse Saturday night at Chalmers Field. Coach, we'll talk to you next Monday night.
Looking forward to seeing both you guys on Saturday night, and hopefully we can have a heck of a game and just really be a competitive football game.
All right, we'll have our shows on Monday nights as going forward here, but we took Tuesday night because of being Labor Day yesterday. So next Monday night at 6 o'clock, we'll have the next University of Dubuque football show with head coach Stan Zwiefel. So that's going to do it for our UD football show for this week. From the University of Dubuque football offices, for Stan Zwiefel, I'm Tim Larry. Have a great evening.